Today we're predicting every NBA team's best player 3 years from now. But it may not be the guys you expect. Also, we've all heard about the Clippers' new scandal. However, we just answered the question everyone's been wondering. Who snitched? Let me know your reactions down below and make sure to subscribe to never miss an episode. Let's get it. Welcome back to another edition of the Hampton Show. Joel, how are we feeling today?
I'm feeling great. This is the official beginning of the NFL season. We're talking about basketball today. This is a basketball show, but you got to be excited about the NFL and all that it has to offer, and this is the beginning of it, so I'm pumped up, man.
It's week one of a fantasy championship. I know you're probably in a lot of leagues too. Can't wait to see where we end up there. But today we're predicting every NBA team's best player 3 years from now. But first, Joel, we are starting the show with one of the biggest scandals in NBA history. Everyone's probably heard by now the Steve Ballmer allegedly paid Kawhi Leonard $28 million under the table. But the first question that popped in my mind whenever I saw this was, consuming all the content that came out of Pablo Torre's report yesterday was, who snitched? Where did this information come from? And I was wondering if it was Ballmer or his associates or a disgruntled Kawhi. Maybe he wasn't getting payments on time, but the answer to that question was neither. And according to Torre, Kawhi allegedly got the money for a no-show job through a company Ballmer owned. And here's the kicker. They used a tree planting company called Aspiration as the front for all of it. Aspiration is going through legal trouble themselves. They're a bankrupt company who owed their investors millions. But this is where it gets shady. Torre said that there was zero evidence Kawhi ever promoted Aspiration or did anything for them online. So basically he had signed a promotional contract that didn't require him to promote anything. And that figure on it was $28 million. The contract had the sneaky clause in it that he could collect millions for doing nothing as long as he stayed with the Clippers. That's a key aspect of this. It said in the contract, if he retired, if he went to another team, the $28 million would be voided. He would not get that in his bank account. All the money went straight to Kawhi Leonard's advisor. His name's Uncle Dennis. This is the same guy who was investigated back in 2019 for trying to get illegal benefits from teams. If you think back to 2019, Kawhi basically blackmailed the Clippers by saying, hey, you guys have to trade for Paul George or I'm going to the Lakers. Come to find out, he went to several different teams his uncle went to several different teams asking for illegal benefits. That was investigated, and his uncle was cleared from that. But this guy, the uncle, is the one receiving that $28 million in this instance. But what everyone's wondering is the question I asked at the beginning of this: who leaked this? The answer is a former Aspiration employee, specifically in the finance department, who flat out admitted that the deal was designed to, quote, circumvent the salary cap, to go around the salary cap and pay him extra on top of the hundreds of millions of dollars that he had from his NBA contract. So, Joel, what's your first reaction when you hear all this, and where did your brain go when you heard this?
I thought it was damning. I mean, these are all allegations right now, but I think the evidence is pretty one-sided right now, leaning in the favor of Pablo Torre. Kawhi Leonard got paid to not promote this company. This company went bankrupt. Pablo Torre has 7 different sources within the company that have spoken to him. He stands by his reporting. And by all accounts, it seems as if the Clippers did pay Kawhi Leonard under the table. Where my mind first went to it is, this is what journalism is all about. There are people complaining about it. This is snitching. This is telling. This is, who cares about it? Teams probably do this all the time. I mean, we are supposed to care about the integrity of the game. We're supposed to care about honest reporting. And I think that's something that someone like Pablo Torre provides that the reporters that work for these big companies don't. Shams is compromised not only by ESPN, but by ESPN Bet. He was compromised by sports books to kind of, shade up the draft odds with where players were going to go get drafted. The NFL now is partnered with ESPN. The ESPN owns a stake in the NFL. A Colin Kaepernick documentary recently got nixed that was being directed by Spike Lee because it was going to make the NFL look bad. These networks we used to be able to rely on to break news like this. But now they don't, because they're compromised and because they aren't going to have honest reporting. And this matters because this could potentially lead to other teams being found out. But most importantly, the Clippers need to be penalized for this. And my mind went to, how are they going to get penalized? Because the last historical precedent that we have to go by is when Minnesota gave Joe Smith money under the table and they lost a boatload of draft picks that basically ruined all chances of them building around Kevin Garnett. The Clippers are in a real interesting position because they don't have a ton of draft picks. They don't have financial flexibility. So the way to hurt them is not with the cap or with draft picks unless they ice their draft picks even further down the future. And if you fine them, I think Steve Ballmer is okay with paying a fine because he is one of the richest owners in sports. But that's what we have to go off of. But this was damning, and I'm sure this happens in other spots as well. The traces of this one was they didn't hide it very well. I mean, Aspiration was a bankrupt company, and they were paying out a company that the name of it was KL2, which
Yes.
is Kawhi Leonard 2. I
Yeah.
mean, it can't get more obvious than that. So they didn't do a good job at covering their tracks, and they're getting found out, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, and you would think they would at least have him like fire one or two tweets out there, some type of social media post. And even though you could argue it's an historic overpay that, he got paid $28 million to make a couple tweets, you can at least point to a couple tweets. Here, there's nothing to point to. There was reporting that all over the internet, he never made an appearance, never made a post, never made a tweet. He just got paid for doing absolutely nothing. Another place my mind went is, are there other teams doing this? Have other NBA superstars been swayed in free agency by this? These are all questions that need to be answered. And I think about other historical events in the NBA that have happened. The Tim Donaghy betting scandal. All the calls that he had with Scott Foster were swept under the table. Scott Foster went on to referee in the NBA to this day, another 30 years plus. But they painted Tim Donaghy as the bad guy. Tim Donaghy was the rogue ref. Now, is Kawhi Leonard a rogue player? Is Steve Ballmer a rogue owner? Is this a one-off or is it not? Jonte Porter here recently, they painted him as a rogue player, that he's the only guy who did this. Come to find out, a couple months later, Rozier gets investigated and cleared. Come to find out, Malik Beasley gets investigated and cleared. So these are all questions that we need answers, and this is a big test for Adam Silver. He has had the tendency to be softer on investigations like this. What I am thankful for, especially as a Grizzlies fan, who their superstar player is getting fined for gestures that everybody in the NBA does, I'm glad Joe Dumars is not in charge of this investigation anymore. I'm glad it's going to be somebody else. Yes, Adam Silver will have the ultimate say, but the administration under Joe Dumars did not punish properly. You see it with Miles Bridges. He was caught on film doing things that would put most people in jail. So this is a big test for Adam Silver. I wonder how many other teams have done it. And those are all questions I want answered.
Miles Bridges, Terry Rozier, Malik Beasley, Kevin Porter Jr. was allowed back into the league.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Silver has been soft with these sort of things, and it doesn't seem like he puts that much importance on it. Jonte Porter was more so made an example of.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it is very easy to damage the integrity of the game, and it's very hard to come back from a reputation once it's already been damaged. And I think with the rise of gambling, with the partnerships that are involved with both parties, that is already affecting the integrity of the game. But also NBA players, they can't bet on NBA games, but Kevin Durant's promoting FanDuel. Kevin Durant is betting on the Washington Commanders money line or point spread. I think that if you are going to crack down on players for sports gambling, for sports betting, then I think that you need to crack down on ownership when they circumvent the cap, because that is what holds the league together, these cap deals. But it's also not like the Clippers underpaid Kawhi from a cap perspective.
No.
And then they gave him the money on top of it to like make up for it. This isn't a Tom Brady situation where the Patriots underpaid him for years, and it was always marketed as Tom Brady is a team first player that wants to keep his contracts low to help the betterment of the team, when there has been some reporting on the fact that Tom Brady might have been making money under the table because in his deals there was clauses that they would throw money at his company TB12.
Mhm.
So this isn't a situation where Kawhi was getting underpaid and he was making the difference with the money. He was still getting a max contract.
Yes.
Steve Ballmer just paid him even more, but that also could have been the difference between Kawhi staying in Toronto, going to
100%.
the Lakers, or going to the Clippers. And a lot of the owners around the league have been skeptical of Kawhi picking the Clippers. And now I think we found out exactly why he did pick the Clippers.
It's 100% true, and I'm glad you highlighted it. Another thing I want to mention, speaking of owners, Mark Cuban, a former NBA owner, came out and defended Steve Ballmer on Twitter. He had said, there's no way, one, he's this stupid. Steve Ballmer invested $50 million in this company, and like everybody else, he got scammed by the company. But it is, in my opinion, very damning that Steve Ballmer invested $50 million into the company. Kawhi Leonard made $28 million from it. I don't know if any other players involved, but that in itself is something that needs to be investigated. But I want to, highlight Cuban's side of the story as well. Speaking of Kawhi, I think this is more damning on him than anybody. You go back and look at the arc of what his career has been the last half decade, and it has been collecting paychecks and not playing basketball. This is just another paycheck he has been collecting. Whether he's been injured or not is another conversation, but that's just a fact. And the fact that this is Kawhi Leonard, a guy who has not spoken very much and has let Uncle Dennis do all of his business, it is very suspicious. You brought up the Tom Brady thing. Pablo Torre, I think he made his round of media hits yesterday, and I think it was on Dan Patrick that he had said he had been asked, is there another superstar in the NBA you're thinking about investigating? He said, I have no evidence of this, but I do wonder how Jalen Brunson ended up in New York for 4 years, $100 million, and then re-signed for, a similar underpaid contract. Like you said, it was not a Kawhi Leonard situation. Kawhi Leonard was maxed out and then made the 28 million on top of it. This is more comparable to Tom Brady. Again, there is no evidence of Jalen Brunson receiving anything, but I'm glad all of this is getting brought to the forefront.
Yeah, it puts a microscope on Jalen Brunson now. I think because his contract is the one that you look at and you're saying,
Yeah.
wow, he is severely underpaid based on the market and what he should be getting. I mean, he's making as much as like he's making less than like Drew Holiday, you know. So
Yeah.
I think you look at that and you're like, that doesn't make much sense. At the same time, with the Kawhi Leonard situation, I think the most damning part of it all is the fact that if he didn't play for the Clippers, he wouldn't receive any of that money. I think that's
Yes.
the most damning part of it all. It makes it so it's not a sponsorship, it's not a deal, it's not a brand deal. It is basically the Clippers paying him, Steve Ballmer paying him, and saying, if you go to another team, you're not going to receive any of these benefits. So only if you play for the Clippers, you will get this money.
Exactly. No, 100%. I think we covered every facet of it. Glad we talked about it, Joel. Let's get into the NBA Southwest Division preview, and then we'll get into every NBA team's best player 3 years from now. We're going to start with the Houston Rockets. I'm going to go over what they did this offseason. And Joel, then I'm going to ask you one thing to watch this season, one thing you're looking out for in your record prediction for them. Houston Rockets offseason was one of the busiest in the NBA. They re-signed Steven Adams, Aaron Holiday, Jeff Green, Jabari Smith Jr., and Jayshawn Tate. They added Clint Capella, J.D. Davidson, Kevin Durant, obviously, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Josh Okogie. And the four guys they said goodbye to were Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green, Jock Landale, and Cam Whitmore. What is the number one thing you're going to be watching for them next season?
Alperen Sengun.
Mm.
Alperen Sengun.
I'm going to be watching the same thing. His fit next to KD is what I'm most interested in. I imagine there'll be a lot of staggered minutes there. And I think his offensive lift while KD's off the floor is what's going to separate them from a Western Conference contender to a true team that can win the NBA Finals. I'm going to be watching Sengun as well. My record prediction for them is 55-27. I got them finishing first in this division. How many wins you see them finishing with?
I see them around the same type of mark. The thing with the Rockets is I have some question marks about them. I have a question mark about Kevin Durant and how well he can lead a team at this point in his career, but more so he's never been a player that I don't want to say elevates a situation, but I feel like when your back is against the wall, he hasn't risen up outside of Golden State. Brooklyn, you could point to that. He did do that. So I want to give him credit there. But this is going to be Kevin Durant's last shot to propel a team into a deep playoff run, maybe a championship. And I think if he does that, this could do a lot for how people view him in general, because I'm going to view him the same pretty much regardless. But I think his legacy would take a big boost from it. Amen Thompson How much of a leap will he take? Because, and this is kind of like what pisses me off, and I don't want to put two players against each other, but all the hype that Amen Thompson gets, I think is warranted because of how special an athlete that he is.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that he is not is an offensive creator. He still can't consistently create offense for himself and for others. And the jump shot. Those are things that need to improve. And usually, a player that has his offensive skill set, we criticize them and bring them down for being liabilities on offense. Amen Thompson has gotten the ultimate pass for that. And he has overshadowed somebody like Alperen Sengun, who Alperen Sengun has been the Rockets' best player for the last couple of years. He's been their most impactful player by every metric. He showed up in the playoffs and played well. And outside of this past season, his shooting percentage has always been above 60%. This past season was his 1 year where his efficiency took a hit, but his defense was really good. And we saw in the playoffs that his defense was also awesome against a Golden State offense that loves to run around. And I think he washed away the Domantas Sabonis allegations, and he proved that he could thrive in a playoff setting. I think Alperen Sengun is special. And the way that he's kind of just been kicked to the back burner as like, oh, Amen Thompson, he's just clearly better than him or going to be clearly better than him. I don't agree with that. And I think Alperen Sengun deserves more respect for the role that he's played on the Rockets, and all those additions that you mentioned, along with the subtractions. You go from Jalen Green to Kevin Durant. You go from Jock Landale to Clint Capella. You go from Dylan Brooks to Dorian Finney-Smith. These are essentially all upgrades that the Rockets made, and the second seed last year should be even better this year.
I understand your point. Sengun deserves more credit. 100% agree there. But the fact that you're under assuming that, are not saying the fact that Amen does have a higher ceiling than Alperen Sengun. So moving forward, a lot of people are looking at Amen because they see that athletic ability. They see the minor things he needs to improve on, and they think he can improve on it. I'm not sitting here arguing that Alperen Sengun doesn't deserve credit. He does, but moving forward, I'm looking at Amen Thompson because Kevin Durant, this is a guy who's missed 20-plus games in the last few years in the league. Amen Thompson's going to need to take on a bigger role because, yes, Kevin Durant, ideally, on paper, is replacing Jalen Green, but when Kevin Durant misses those 20 games, Jalen Green isn't going to be there to take the shots. Dylan Brooks is not going to be there to set the foundation of the culture. Dylan Brooks, as much shit that he gets, there is never a night that he takes off. Amen Thompson's going to have a lot bigger role this year, and I think he will prove that he will be the cornerstone piece of this Rockets team. It's not anything against Sengun. It's purely ceiling base for me.
I'm going off what I've seen, and I've seen Alperen Sengun improve every year. I think he
have
can
we
be
not
an
seen
offensive
Amen?
hub. He has improved. I'm not saying he hasn't, but Alperen Sengun right now is shooting threes. He was 4 for 7 last night. Yesterday against Nikola Jokic, and he outplayed Nikola Jokic. Alperen Sengun, if that jump shot is reliable with his post game, his touch, his passing, his ability to get to his spots, if you add in that shooting ability, we're talking about a player that can reach a ceiling that most people think that he couldn't reach before. That's all I'm saying.
We shall see. I imagine a lot of minutes of Amen Thompson and Alperen Sengun together. So hopefully it works out for both of them. I agree. I have questions about all the same things you have questions about, which is why Denver is the second best contender behind OKC, and it's not even close. Houston in this division, they'll win it, though. Let's move on to the Dallas Mavericks. They re-signed Dante Exum, Kyrie Irving, and PJ Washington. They added D'Angelo Russell. They said goodbye to Spencer Dinwiddie. What is the number one thing you're watching out of Dallas?
If they can stay healthy and how well they mesh. D'Angelo Russell was brought in to be a point guard. He has chemistry with Anthony Davis. I think that reduces Cooper Flagg's on-ball role a little bit more, but I do think that the major thing to watch for with Dallas is Cooper Flagg. I know they have all these veterans, they have all these jumbo wings on their team, but Cooper Flagg is the reason why there's interest and intrigue in the team right now. Because if he is better, even than we expect, even though we expect some high things, Dallas can be a serious contender if they're healthy. With Anthony Davis, with Kyrie Irving, with all their depth pieces, if Cooper Flag is 18 and 8 and 4 as a rookie, I mean, how is this not a big three already? It
Because
is.
D'Angelo Russell is the starting point guard. It's pretty simple.
What about when Kyrie comes back?
We're going to bank on Kyrie coming back from a serious injury very late in the regular season. That's why they're going to be a contender.
Serious injury, torn ACL in the year 2025. ACL injuries, players recover from them all the time.
This isn't
now.
Kyrie in Cleveland, bro. This is a guy who's in his mid-30s.
This is Kyrie who just the other day was shooting the basketball already.
I'm not banking on Kyrie for this team to become an instant contender when D'Angelo Russell is the point. You're talking about chemistry with Anthony Davis?
If D'Angelo Russell is the backup point guard, then yeah, the Dallas Mavericks are in a great position.
You're talking about a contender. And in the same breath, the reason you're selling that is D'Angelo Russell has chemistry with Anthony Davis.
No, I'm saying they're a contender because of the talent on this team with Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, and Cooper Flag, and the depth around them. They just re-signed PJ Washington. They still have Derek Lively. They still have Daniel Gafford. They have Najee Marshall. They have Max Christie. The depth on this team is awesome. They have Klay Thompson. This is essentially the same roster that Luka went to the NBA Finals with. It's even better than that roster.
No, it's not. Kyrie Irving's not playing 70% of the year at least. And this brings me to the
Kyrie Irving didn't play most of the regular season when they made the Finals.
But he came back fully Kyrie Irving, and he wasn't coming off a torn ACL.
So are you telling me Kyrie Irving, when he comes back, if he comes back in February, April, if he has months to ramp up, we're not talking about the Mavericks as something serious, a team that could upset another team in the playoffs?
One, not in this Western Conference. Two, that brings me to the one thing I'm watching in his primary ball handling. Everyone thinks that D'Angelo Russell is just going to handle this, and yeah, it may take away from Cooper Flag. Cooper Flag was not asked to do this in college. This is going to be new for Flag. You and I were in person watching him at Summer League. He didn't look comfortable in Summer League in that role. I don't think he's going to look comfortable his first year in the NBA in that role, much less when your only other option to handle the ball is D'Angelo Russell, a guy who got shipped out from the Lakers because he could not be a part of a winning culture defensively, goes to the Brooklyn Nets. Everyone's like, oh, Brooklyn D-Lo's back. His numbers got worse there. Are we sitting here expecting that he's going to put up better numbers in Dallas than he did in Brooklyn? It's ridiculous.
Nobody said that Brooklyn D-Lo is back. That ship has sailed. Cooper Flag also had 30 in his second Summer League game. Let's not forget that. Cooper Flag can handle the ball. He can handle the transition. He can make plays. D'Angelo Russell on a vet minimum contract where he has so many good players around him, yes, he could be fine. He could be more efficient. I think D'Lo has a bounce back year. But ultimately, he's your backup point guard. If D'Lo's your backup point guard, you are in a good spot. And the Mavericks have depth. They have 10 good, legitimately really good NBA players on their roster. With Anthony Davis, who's still a top 10 player, Kyrie Irving, even if he comes back at 70% and is giving you 20 a night, if Cooper Flag is day one instant impact, yes, this Mavericks team is going to be really freaking good and a lot to deal with.
So you not only are making 3 bets, you have a 3-leg parlay of Anthony Davis staying healthy, Kyrie Irving coming back 100%, and betting on Cooper Flag's primary ball handling. And if it's not, D'Angelo Russell can take care of it. So it's really a 4-leg parlay we're talking about. For them to be a contender, all 4 of those things have to hit.
Yes, that is their ceiling. Best case scenario, the Mavericks can be a contender based on the roster and based on their ceiling.
Can you talk about their floor?
You're talking about Cooper Flag and the offensive ball handling. Well, okay, let's take a step back real quick. Let's talk about Cooper Flag and the defensive player that he is and the defense that the Mavericks are going to roll out there. We're talking about an Anthony Davis, Cooper Flag, Daniel Gafford, or Derek Lively anchored defense. Are we serious? We're talking about a defense that has the potential to be the best defense in the NBA. That's how good the Mavericks can be.
Well, they better be that, because when you're reading those names and I'm thinking about spacing, I just cringe and shiver at sitting here in my seat. Here's the deal. This team won 39 games last year, and a bulk of those games they won was before the Luka Doncic trade. Luka Doncic is no longer there. I have them improving by 1 win. They finished 40-42, and they finished fourth in this division. What is your prediction?
So you think that the Mavericks win 40 games with this roster? And that is insanely disrespectful.
It's not disrespectful to them. It's look at the rest of the West. You and I couldn't even fit them in the top 8 a couple weeks ago. Are you good? Would you had them at 8th?
The Mavericks finished with that amount of wins because Anthony Davis got hurt. If you are telling me Anthony Davis is going to get hurt again, he's going to miss half the year, okay, sure. I could get on board with what you're saying. If the Mavericks, based on right now, they're healthy, and if they are healthy, no, I don't have them going under 500. They're an over 500 team. I got them at 45 to 46 wins. That's how good this Mavericks team is.
What a huge jump. This is the reason I have them at 40 wins. Like I said earlier, all 4 of these things have to happen. Anthony Davis has to be fully healthy. Kyrie Irving has to come back 100%. Cooper Flagg has to be a great primary ball handler in his first year in the NBA. And D'Angelo Russell has to be a starting point guard for 70% of the season. If one of those things fall through, this team is a 40-win team, and it's a bet I am willing to take.
I think they're not going under 500. There's no way I see that. There's no way. We can have a friendly wager, and you can have under 500. I will have over 500.
We'll definitely talk about that off camera. Can't wait for that. Let's move on to a team that I think will definitely be under 500. Another team in the division.
The Memphis Grizzlies?
Funny. New Orleans Pelicans.
Ah.
They re-signed Herb Jones to a 3-year extension. They added Sadiq Bey, Kevon Looney, and Jordan Poole. They said goodbye to Bruce Brown and CJ McCollum in that Jordan Poole trade. They also they said goodbye to Kelly Olynyk in that trade to the Wizards as well. What is your number one thing you're watching for the North?
Zion being healthy. That's it. If he's healthy and the roster around him is healthy, like Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, I think they'll be competitive. This is a team that not too long ago was the 8th seed in the playoffs, and they were a top 5 seed before Zion got hurt. The Pelicans rely so much on Herb Jones's defensive impact because the difference in them being one of the best defenses in the NBA 2 seasons ago versus dropping off a cliff last year was essentially Herb Jones. That's how impactful he is. If he is healthy, their defense they have a high floor, and then offensively they have, although clunky fits, they have good offensive players with Zion, with Murphy, with Jordan Poole. But overall, this is a team that you can trust. This is a team that it is clunky because you can't really build around Zion based on his availability. So they haven't brought in players that fit him the best. But this is a team that they have a lot of talent. You know, it's just about putting it together and all staying healthy. And they can maybe surprise people if they do stay healthy.
Say what you want to say. Say if Zion is healthy, he's a what?
He's a top 15 player in the NBA.
Even though that has been proven, we come back to this statement. If he's healthy, he's a top 15 player in the NBA. And what I've told you over the weeks is that this is a lie that has been sold to you over the last several years by NBA media. We saw him healthy in 2024. Not last season, the season before, 70 games. There is 24 All-Stars that are voted for. He was not even a snub. He was not an All-Star. He was not a snub. There are 15 All-NBA players that are voted for. He was not an All-NBA player, and he was not a snub. So if we're talking about top 15 when healthy, the data doesn't prove it. The voting doesn't prove it. I'm not sitting here making the argument. I'm letting the players voting, the coaches voting, the fan voting. I'm letting that make the argument. It's simply not true. And that's why my number one thing to watch is his buy-in. Does he want to be there? Does he end up on another team by the end of the season? That's what I'm watching.
Here's the thing. Thank God I don't go by the media's voting standards because I don't believe in it anyway. Like the NBA Finals MVP reward or award that gets handed out. It's only a certain handful of people that vote on it. Doesn't mean I agree with the voting.
You don't have to.
It doesn't mean it.
You weren't sitting here screaming that he was a snub either 2 years ago. I don't remember that video coming across my For You page.
Because I could watch Zion Williamson and I could say that is one of the most dominant forces in basketball today. And he did average 26 to 27 points last season. When he was healthy, he was dominating in spurts.
30 games.
He was dominating those 30 games. There's not 15 players you can name me. I don't care about no all-star list. There's not 15 players you can name me that are better than Zion Williamson when he's healthy.
Let's go to the All-NBA teams that year. We're doing this week. What you're doing. All right, All-NBA first team for 2024. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, Shea, Nikola Jokic, and Jason Tatum. Any arguments there?
No.
Second team, you're Jalen Brunson, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards, Kawhi Leonard 2 years ago. Any arguments there?
No.
Third team, 2024, Devin Booker, Stephen Curry, Tyrese Halliburton, LeBron James, and Domantas Sabonis in his breakout year with the Sacramento Kings.
Sabonis isn't better than Zion.
That year he was.
I don't care about that. I'm saying he's not a better player than Zion Williamson. Sabonis is not better than Zion.
So I got the votes, Joel.
So you think Sabonis is a better basketball player than Zion Williamson?
I am looking at the votes. Those were the 15 players who made the All-NBA team. The guy who was the first one out was Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics. The guy behind him was Paul George 2 years ago. Tyrese Maxey, Rudy Gobert, De'Aaron Fox, and then Zion Williamson. Jaylen Brown had 50 All-NBA third-team votes. Zion had 8. He was not even the first 5 out.
I'm not asking the voting who they think the 15 best are. I'm asking Jack Hampton. I'm not asking nobody else. Outside of Jaylen Brown, that's the only guy you could argue is better than Zion Williamson when healthy, even though I think Zion is a more dominant player than Jaylen Brown when healthy. But all those other guys, Tyrese Maxey, Domantas Sabonis, they're not better than Zion Williamson.
To me, it is very ironic that you hang this banner of the Pelicans were an 8 seed 2 years ago, and it's never mentioned Zion leaves the play-in game in which he had 40. They get swept in the first round of the playoffs, and this is the exact same season. He doesn't sniff an all-star team, and he doesn't sniff an All-NBA team. What you're asking me is, do I think Zion Williamson is better than the people that continue to make all-star and all-NBA teams over him? My answer is no, Joel, and it's just as simple as that.
And my answer is yes, because I'm not basing that off my reasoning. And also because that year, Zion wasn't as statistically dominant as he was last season. Zion was averaging 22 a night. He was averaging 6 to 7 rebounds. What we saw from Zion this past season, did you watch him?
It was a smaller sample size.
So it doesn't matter?
LaMelo Ball averaged 35 the first 20 games of the year, and then it fades off.
All right, we saw LaMelo do that on poor efficiency. That's what we did. We saw that. Zion's
on good efficiency. It's dunks and attacking the lane.
Zion was one of the most efficient players in basketball.
Good. He should be. What three-pointers does he take? What mid-range shots does he take?
Well, that's the thing. He is one of the most dominant forces downhill. 25, 7, and 5 in 28 minutes per game. Are we serious? He's averaging 25, 7, and 5 in 28 minutes.
Let's back it up. What is the record prediction you have for them? If you think he's so dominant, if he's fully healthy, what record do they have with Jordan Poole?
I think you can't bank on them being healthy. So that's what knocks their record down. That's what knocks it down. But I'm willing to say this is a 38 to 40 win team. I'm willing to say that.
How many teams are winning 40 games in the Western Conference? Because by your
the Pelicans can win just as many games as the Grizzlies.
Okay, that is utterly ridiculous.
They can.
By your math,
they can.
14 of 15 teams are winning 40 games in the West. It's unattainable.
The West is going to be pretty stacked. But the Pelicans, I think 36 wins for them, baking in the injuries is reasonable, I think, for them, yes.
Yeah, with Jordan Poole on the roster, it's not reasonable. The record
Jordan
prediction.
Poole averaged 21 last year. He was on good efficiency.
Do we not remember 2 years ago? Jordan Poole is going to be the MIP. Now that he's left Golden State, he's not sharing shots with Klay.
Do you just judge everything based on 2 years ago? It's already happened. We're talking
21
about
points last year for what?
Last season.
It was the Wizards, bro. They were one of the worst teams in NBA history.
So the fact that he was efficient on a bad team makes me think that around good players, he'll be efficient, right?
You were making the Cam Thomas and Maxey argument. Did you see what he got paid this morning?
Yes.
1 year and $6 million. That is what we're paying guys who do put up those kind of numbers on horrific teams, on bad efficiency. You want to talk about efficiency? Bring up the Jordan Poole thing.
Poole was efficient last year, though.
Okay. 25 and 57, fifth in the division. There has
25 wins.
Yes, there has to be some type of drop-off, and this is one of the best years we're ever going to see out of the Western Conference. There has to be teams that are bottom feeders, and to me, it's not that crazy that the Pelicans are one of those.
No, it's not. If you think they're going to be hurt again, and Zion's going to miss half the year, and Herb Jones is going to miss the entire year, yeah, and Trey Murphy is going to have a season-ending injury like halfway through the season, then sure. But no, if they're healthy, no, they're not winning 25 games, Jack.
Okay, we shall see. Maybe we won't, because it just takes one of those things to happen. All 4 or 5 of them don't have to happen. Zion doesn't have to get hurt. Trey Murphy doesn't have to get hurt. But we'll move on. San Antonio Spurs. This summer, they re-signed De'Aaron Fox to a 4-year extension. Loved that conversation last week. Jordan McLaughlin returned on a 1-year deal. They added Luke Cornett, Kelly Olynyk, and Lindy Waters. They said goodbye to Malachi Branham, Chris Paul, and Blake Wesley. What is your number one thing to watch for the San Antonio Spurs this season?
Victor Wembanyama, offensive growth, and how he fits with De'Aaron Fox. They only played a couple games together, and when Wemby was on the floor, they had a close to a 500 record. I think they're even better now. And Dylan Harper, his role off the bench. I also want to see Stephon Castle, how he fits into a role off the ball, if he shoots better. I think that's what I'm looking for. San Antonio, I had all these teams ranked in terms of best to worst, and San Antonio came in second for me. Rockets are number 1, San Antonio's 2, and the Mavericks are 3. I think the Spurs are going to take a major leap because of how great Victor Wembanyama is. I think it all banks on his greatness. And if he is that great, which I think he can be if he stays healthy, then the Spurs, I have winning 45 games in the West. I have the Rockets around 55 plus, and I have the Mavericks at around 43, around the same ballpark as San Antonio. I don't think the amount of games between the two is going to be that much separation.
Yeah, the record we have is the same. The division finish is not. My one thing to watch is that guard cluster they have. We've talked about this. We don't need to cover it anymore. But Fox, Castle, Harper, what that looks like. Harper coming off the bench, what he turns into. Is it a Scoot Henderson type of rookie year, or is it a Trae Young type of rookie year? I'm interested to see which one of those it is. Record predictions, 1 win away from you. I have them taking a 10-win jump, 44 and 38, 6 games over 500. Again, that would be a 10-win improvement last season. However, in the division, I have them finishing 3rd. Division finish doesn't matter. This isn't the NFL. But I think I see where we disagree, and that is on the Memphis Grizzlies, per usual. I am high on the Spurs, just not higher than the Grizzlies.
Okay. Yeah, because when you said you have them finishing 3rd, I was like, you have to have the Mavericks over them, but no, it's the Grizzlies. A child's play. The Memphis Grizzlies.
It's not child's play. Now I know that, back when we were talking about the Mavericks, I say they're finishing 4th. You're so caught up in, oh my God, think of the defense the Mavericks going to have. Kyrie Irving's going to come back absolutely amazing. I'm not even listening to Jack whenever he's making his predictions. I'm on the edge here because he's whipping my ass so bad in this argument. I gotta do my part. So I understand.
So I'm looking at the Memphis Grizzlies, and you think that they're going to win 46 games?
We'll get to it when we get to it. But
okay,
with the Spurs, what do you think Victor Wembanyama averages?
He averages 27 or 28.
I agree.
The 3-point shooting leap that he took was real, and once he started getting consistent, he was averaging around those numbers. So I think that Wemby, he has a chance to be an MVP candidate this year. That's how good he's going to be. He's going to be one of the 5 best players in basketball.
100%. And the Fox thing is going to be interesting. It's another thing I'm watching. I mean, you bringing up Fox and Wembanyama, they did not play a lot together. What is the ceiling on that team? We can't decide it yet. We cannot decide it yet. My question is not them this year. I believe they're going to potentially be a playoff team, obviously be well over 500. But when it comes to the future and that extension is kicking in, and De'Aaron Fox in the year 2030 is, he's 32 years old, making $61.5 million per year. That's where it comes in, because that contract's going to be untradeable. And I don't know what his output is going to be in the year 2030 next to Victor Wembanyama. That's where I have concerns for the Spurs. But this year, I think you and I pretty much see eye to eye. Is that fair?
It is. Let's get on to the Grizzlies. I want to talk about them.
Okay. Memphis Grizzlies. This summer, they re-signed Santi Aldama, Jaren Jackson Jr., Cam Spencer. They added Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Ty Jerome, Jock Landale. said goodbye to Cole Anthony, obviously Desmond Bane, Jay Huff, and Luke Kennard. What is the one thing you're watching for them this year?
How much the departure of Desmond Bane affects the team. He's a really good player that they lost, and they replaced him with KCP, who was not good last season. I just the Grizzlies, I just can't get over the fact they're number 2 for you because they're led by proven durable player Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., who his offensive limitations sometimes can really piss you off. In the playoffs, he was getting guarded by Alex Caruso, and not that, Caruso's a great defender, but I don't think Jaren Jackson Jr. plays to his size. The rebounding still a deficiency. I just look at major holes the Grizzlies have on their team, like the shooting guard position. I think KCP's below average. Like Zach Edey. I think Zach Edey, he is good for rebounding, shots around the rim, but for the most part, I think his slow-footedness on defense can be a problem for you guys. And it's really like the Grizzlies are banking on their young players taking steps forward, that being Jalen Wells and potentially Cedric Coward in his first year. And the signing of Ty Jerome was solid. It was good.
It was better than that.
Does Ty Jerome and KCP made me think, oh, you now replace Desmond Bane's impact? No, it doesn't.
Well, I'll address that in a minute. My number one thing to watch is wing depth. Can a second-year Jalen Wells, like you said, be ready to be a third option? I'm not asking him to fill Desmond Bane's shoes, but can Cedric Coward help out with that? I think you're not just replacing Desmond Bane with KCP and that's it. It's KCP, Ty Jerome, Cedric Coward, who was acquired to, that draft pick was acquired in the Magic trade to eventually trade up and get Coward. So those are 3 guys you got in return for Desmond Bane, not to mention all the first-round picks you have. You own the number 1 asset in the entire NBA this season. It is the Phoenix Suns' first-round draft pick next year. You can make an argument that Atlanta has it and the Pelicans, but for whatever reason, you're pretty high on the Pels. So I think the Grizzlies have the number 1 asset too. What do they do with that potentially at the deadline as well? Yes, you can make ha-ha jokes about Ja Morant's health, but when you look at Scottie Pippen Jr., this is a guy who dropped damn near 30 in the playoffs last year. You look at Ty Jerome. If Ja Morant misses 30 games, I feel good about Scottie Pippen starting them. I feel good about still having Ty Jerome coming off the bench despite Ja Morant missing those games. I feel good about Jalen Wells in his second year. I feel good about Cedric Coward being the steal of the NBA draft. That's why I have this team just winning 1 or 2 more games than the San Antonio Spurs, not much higher, but 46-36, finishing second in this division.
So if Ja gets hurt, the starting lineup of Ty Jerome, KCP, Jalen Wells, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Zach Edey is what's going to lift the Grizzlies.
It's Scottie Pippen and Ty Jerome would come off the bench, but no, I think that can get you by for a week. I'm saying that they are more locked and loaded. When one of those big 3 went down last year, and this is the reason they made the trade, when Ja, Dez, or Jaren was not playing, they were horrific because they were playing G League players. They were playing Vince Williams and G.G. Jackson, who have not been comparable on this roster, not to mention if they take a leap this year. Now they actually have depth. In this NBA, it's not about your 3 best guys anymore, Joel. It's about having depth, and we saw that with the Indiana Pacers throughout their playoff run.
So why isn't that same logic used for the Mavericks? Because they have more depth than the Memphis Grizzlies.
Because the Mavericks do not have a viable point guard. They don't have one.
I still would rather have
the Grizzlies have 3.
I'd rather have the duo of Anthony Davis and Cooper Flag than John JJJ.
I would not. And especially I'm looking at Anthony Davis's health compared to Ja. I trust Ja's health more than Anthony Davis's health at this point in his career.
How?
Because Ja played 50 games last year.
Anthony Davis has been more healthy than Ja.
Ja played 50 games last year.
50 games is the bar?
It's whenever talking about arguing his health over Anthony Davis's health, yeah, that's the bar.
AD played 51 games last year.
Okay, and what are we talking about as he's getting later in his career? The fit with Cooper Flag in itself is clunky. At least Ja Morant next to Jaren Jackson makes sense.
I don't even know if it makes that much sense because they are not even pick and roll partners. It's not even like they feed each other on offense that much. They complement each other's skill sets. Ja Morant in the pick and roll is not usually running that with Jaren Jackson Jr.
The one thing I will give you whenever it comes to this argument is Tomas Isolo's record I know they had a hellacious schedule to finish out the season, and obviously he coached in the playoffs. That was not fair to throw him in that fire. If you're going to fire Taylor Jenkins, they should have done it this summer. I vehemently disagree with how they went about that. But that is the thing that can crash and burn. It's not going to be that they don't have that Desmond Bane is gone. Desmond Bane was a fantastic player, but some of the national media's lies, it's like I heard that he was a great defender. I didn't see that in the playoffs. You mentioned Jaren Jackson being swallowed up by Alex Caruso. Desmond Bane was a number one guard option. I didn't see him do anything in the playoffs. That's why they moved off. They're valuing depth over having him as a third option.
I mean, I understand, but I think the depth, although better than last year, you're still losing an all-star caliber player to the team, and that's going to be a huge blow. Ty Jerome, last time I checked, was pretty bad in the playoffs too, in the second round.
We're talking about regular season record, Joel.
Yeah, I know, but you mentioned Desmond Bane's playoffs. That's what you said, right? You mentioned his playoffs, so that's why I brought Ty Jerome's playoffs, because he was bad in the playoffs. I just think the Memphis Grizzlies right now, just the vibes of the team feels like they're kind of on the decline. You need magic to happen again. You need Ja Morant to revert back to the best possible version of Ja Morant to uplift this team. And all of the good things that you're mentioning to me about the Grizzlies, the one thing that stands out are things that are not currently on this roster are going to be on the floor this season. There are things later like assets, the Suns pick. Yeah, that's why I think the Grizzlies are in a good position to pivot and rebuild. But I do feel like overall they are trending in that direction more so than they're trending in the direction of competing and shocking the West.
I don't see them shocking anything. I have them finishing 8th in the Western Conference with 46 wins. I just have them 2 wins ahead of the Spurs. That what I'm saying is not bold, and it's not I have them as a Western Conference contender. That's simply not true. I'm just making the argument they can win 46 games and finish second in this division.
I see less than that. I think that if you're being fair, you have to bake in injuries for the Grizzlies too. You can't just say you're baking it in for the Mavericks and the Pelicans, but you're not baking it in for the Grizzlies. Because if Ja misses time with no Bane now and no Ja, 30 games is a lot. 30 that's the number you used earlier. 30 games without Ja, I'm thinking you're out the play-in. You're probably at the bottom of the play-in if that happens.
And I concede that. And that is a bet I'm willing to take. I cannot argue about Ja's health, but what I will argue is that I believe in his health more than Anthony Davis's health and Zion Williamson's health. And that is what we are talking about division-wise here. I believe in Ja's health over Zion and Anthony Davis, and that's a bet I'm willing to take.
I disagree with the Anthony Davis part. I can't say nothing about Zion. Zion has not been healthy.
Okay.
But no, yeah, this is how I feel about the Grizzlies. My record for them is actually where you had the Mavericks. I think the Grizzlies are a 40-win team. That's how I feel about them.
So you're taking the under on 40.5 win total. That's what you're telling me.
That's their win total?
Yeah, their win total is 40.5.
Yeah, I'll go slightly under at 40 exactly.
That is blasphemy. So one more time. The 5 I have finishing in this division, the Rockets, 55 wins, Grizzlies second, 46 wins, Spurs, 44, Mavericks, 40, and then the Pelicans, huge drop-off at the end, 25 wins. Go ahead with yours.
I have the Rockets at 56 wins. I have the Spurs at 45. I have the Mavericks at 44. I have the Grizzlies at 40, and I have the Pelicans at 35.
Okay. All right, fair. Let's move on to the main topic of the podcast, predicting every NBA team's best player 3 years from now. Some of these will fly through because, look, it'll be the same player it is now. But some of these, there is an argument, and one of those teams is the Atlanta Hawks. I put down Jaren Jackson for them. This pick assumes, you could throw in Risa Shea if you wanted to. I just believe in Jaren Jackson more. This pick assumes that Trae Young will not be in Atlanta 3 years from now. Risa Shea looks more like a Mikal Bridges ceiling than Jaren Jackson. Johnson's athleticism, production before the injuries and stuff already, being under contract long terms makes him the choice for me.
I'm going with Trae Young. I think he's going to be in Atlanta. I thought about Jaren Jackson. I think the athletic tools are there. He has more potential, I guess you can say, than Trae, but Trae is the ultimate offensive floor raiser who him being on the floor alone nets you one of the 10 best offenses in the NBA. And 3 years from now, he'll still be in his prime, he'll still be a great player. So I have Trae Young.
Yeah, I think that I'm not sitting here arguing that Jalen Johnson's going to be better than Trae Young at that point. What I am arguing is that Trae will not be on that team at that point. And I understand that. Another interesting team here is the Charlotte Hornets. LaMelo, it could be a similar conversation, but also the availability of him is a serious, serious issue. If LaMelo's on the same team, I may still put a bet on Brandon Miller or a guy like Con Knipple. I'm putting Brandon Miller here. It just opens the door for Miller to be a cheaper, younger cornerstone by 2028 than LaMelo Ball, and that could be the door they open.
I'm going with LaMelo Ball still. I think he's in Charlotte again. I didn't really go off of if I think this player is going to be there or not. I think just based on how they are, if they're there right now, I'm still going to go LaMelo. I think Brandon Miller has a high ceiling, but I just don't think it's as high as LaMelo's.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Boston Celtics, I think we both agree Jason Tatum, correct? Brooklyn Nets, I put nobody from this roster would be their best player in 3 years. Do you agree with that?
That's a draft pick. Or if it's not a draft pick, it's Michael Porter Jr., unfortunately.
Yeah. Makes sense. Bulls, it could be a draft pick. I just put Matas Buzelis. You agree with that?
I put Matas Buzelis here too.
All right, gotcha. All right, let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. 3 years from now, it's going to be an interesting timeline in Donovan Mitchell's career. I put Evan Mobley here, already a DPOY winner, improving on offense. Mobley has surpassed, Donovan Mitchell, I think, in 3 years. The Cavs alpha, his growth trajectory, obviously, looks like his ceiling could be above what Donovan Mitchell's is in 3 years. Do you agree?
Of course. I think even last season you could point to all the numbers, and Evan Mobley was more impactful than Donovan Mitchell. Mm-hmm. So I think he's already trending that way. So Evan Mobley definitely, I think, will be the Cavs' best player in 3 years.
Got you. Mavericks, Cooper Flag, it's the easiest one on this list. Denver Nuggets, I still feel like Jokic is going to be playing, but it is a conversation whenever you talk about Jokic, and not that he dislikes basketball, but how much he likes horse racing and shit outside of basketball. I don't know if he retires by then, but yeah, Jokic, his game is going to age like fine wine.
Yeah, Jokic is easy, yeah.
Yeah, Pistons got Cade. Golden State Warriors is interesting because you go back to the two timelines thing that they were trying to sell their fans, half decade ago. And, maybe in 2020 you would have put Kuminga in the year 2028 or someone like that. But Steph Curry at 40 years old, in my opinion, is still going to be the best player on this team 3 years from now.
I disagree. Unless the Warriors are a bottom feeder, I just don't see Steph Curry being 40 and still playing at this high of a level. I think their best player is a draft pick in 3 years. I think they have realistically 2 more years before they start rebuilding, and they have the draft picks who they own them. So I think it's going to be a draft pick. I don't think it's anybody on the current roster.
I go back to the LeBron argument, though. Nobody envisioned he would be doing this at 41 years old. I think it's with Curry's game, it's not that crazy. He can still be the best player on that team, right?
Yeah, if they're a bad team, yes.
Okay, fair. All right, I agree with that. Houston Rockets. You got to stand on your Alperen Sengun business here, Joel. I'm standing on my Amin Thompson. I'm already elite defensively. You talked about his athletic traits. What this guy's going to be in 3 years is the best player on the Houston Rockets, and it's not going to be close with Alperen Sengun.
Well, I hope so. If he is so much better than Sengun, then they're going to be a pretty freaking good team. I'm going with Alperen Sengun. I think he's special.
Why are you picking Alperen Sengun 3 years from now? I understand, and I agree with you right now, but why 3 years from now?
Because I only see him improving. I don't see him getting any worse.
I see a ceiling is what I see, and you talk about slow-footedness defensively. I think that could be a problem, and that was Jokic's number one problem until it wasn't. But whenever you're watching Alperen Sengun play, I think it is more Domantas Sabonis-y than it is Nikola Jokic-y.
Well, see, I disagree with that. And I think that slow-footedness on defense, he washed away that narrative in the playoffs when he guarded those Golden State actions perfectly. And he's more agile than Jokic, and it makes sense. Jokic
perfectly. They were down 3-1 at one point.
Yeah, but he played good defense. They were down 3-1 because of the offense. Their offense, they couldn't generate any offense, but their defense was really good in that series. I think that he has more agileness than Jokic. Jokic is a true 7-footer. Alperen Sengun is more 6'10", 6'9". So I think that he's able to move around the floor better. I just think that he's going to improve on all levels. He's going to improve as a shooter, both in the mid-range and the three. He's going to improve his feel for the game, his passing, his decision-making. These are all things that I think Alperen Sengun will get better at, and he's already one of the better offensive centers in the league. So I think that him reaching a higher ceiling offensively and him being a good defender gives him a really safe floor that I'm comfortable with projecting 3 years from now. He'll be much better than he is right now.
We shall see. We're approaching the halfway point here. Pacers, I think we can agree Halliburton there. Clippers is an interesting one. Those players are going to age out. I put it Ivica Zubac. You agree with that?
Yeah, Zubac feels like the safe option.
Yeah, Lakers, same with Luka Doncic there. Memphis Grizzlies is a team we talked about in the division preview. You can make an argument for Jaren. To me, Ja Morant's going to be 29 3 years from now. It's not that crazy that Ja is going to be the best player on his team 3 years from now. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, usually hyper-athletic point guards with injury history are the best players on their team, 29.
It's 29. It's not 39, Joel. We're not talking about Russell Westbrook at this point in his career.
No, we're not. But I think that Triple J has the best, I guess, bar to be their best player. I think he'll be healthier. He'll be more impactful defensively. His offensive game has been improving. But I think when you go down the list of all these teams and then you get to the Grizzlies and you go Jaren Jackson Jr. or Ja Morant, best player, you're like, maybe time for a change.
There is so many other teams where I would not want to be. We have the Milwaukee Bucks next. We have talked about the Brooklyn Nets. I don't even know when it comes to the Washington Wizards. We have to name this for the Sacramento Kings. Hell, even the Portland Trailblazers. And you're sitting here, Ja Morant, a guy who's been an All-NBA player, and Jaren Jackson, who's been an All-Star. Gosh, maybe it's time to make a change.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to mention a team like the Kings. I think Domantas Sabonis is going to be the best player in 3 years. He's another one that...
He seems pretty unhappy to me.
I mean, he's another one, though, that if that's your best player, good luck. I don't know how far you're getting. And I think that, I mean, according to you, based on the All-NBA votes and stuff, Domantas Sabonis is better than Ja Morant, too. So the Kings actually have a better best player than your best
Ja played 6 games in that year.
Okay.
Ja played 6 games in that year.
Did Sabonis get more All-NBA votes this year than Ja Morant? I probably guess. I wouldn't doubt it. That
Ja was disqualified. He didn't play 65 games.
Okay, but even still, according to your logic,
Well, according to your logic, having a choice between an All-NBA player and an All-Star as your franchise cornerstone is not a great position to be in, and you just need to punt and rebuild.
They're low-level All-Stars.
They're still All-Stars, and we're not talking about All-Stars. One of them made an All-NBA team, Joel.
I think that the Grizzlies are in no man's land. That's what I think they are. I think there are certain teams that are in no man's land. I think the Grizzlies are one of them.
We're talking about no man's land with a team low-level All-Stars. We can talk about it. 2 of them with some of the best assets in the league that moving forward they could possibly cash in on.
No, sure. Yeah, the future, if they head into a rebuild, is promising.
What rebuild? Why do they need to rebuild? I don't understand.
This is Joe Johnson on the Hawks. This is Jeff Teague, Al Horford, Paul Millsap with the Hawks.
That is crazy.
This is middle of the pack, first round exit, perpetual first round exit team.
You know what I see this team is? I see it as the Knicks a few years ago. They had all that weaponry and they went and spent it on Mikal Bridges and they went and spent it on OG Anunoby, spent the bread on OG Anunoby, and they became a conference finals team. That's how I view this team. It was
okay.
They had Jalen Brunson with Julius Randle, but they just needed to move on from Julius Randle, and that's all it took. It's not a complete tear down rebuild that people are making it out to be, and it's also not no man's land either. You want to talk about no man's land? That's the Chicago Bulls. That's the Sacramento Kings. That's not the Memphis Grizzlies.
Okay, I'm glad that you're keeping that optimistic viewpoint of them because you need it right now. That's what you need to think that you're the Knicks of the West.
Another easy one, Minnesota Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards is there. Miami Heat, I put Bam Adebayo. Could be interesting there. You could go Tyler Hero. Which way are you going?
I'm going with Khalil Ware.
Explain that, please.
Khalil Ware, I think, is uber talented. I think the problem with him is work ethic. Eric Spoelstra wants more professionalism out of him. Khalil Ware in college averaged 21 and 10, and as a rookie, he averaged 9 points and 7 rebounds in limited minutes. Per 36, he averaged 15 and 12 with 1 block. I think Khalil Ware has a really high ceiling. He just has to tap into it. He has the defensive ability to be a high-level defender, not the defender that Bam is, but he has the offensive game to be better than Bam offensively. His ability off the dribble to create shots even as a 7-foot big man. His ability to stretch the floor and shoot. He shot well from 3 in college, 31% as a rookie. I think he has so much talent, all the talent in the world, but it's about committing to the game, having high work ethic, and those were all concerns for him. I think he has the ceiling to be the best player on the Heat.
Well, good thing whenever NBA players have a workout problem and then they get paid tens of millions of dollars, good things usually happen, and that work ethic just gets fixed right away. So hopefully that's a bet that pays off for you. But whenever I think of a big man that's uber talented that has work ethic issues, I think of DeAndre Ayton, and that's what I think of for Khalil Ware.
Okay, DeAndre Ayton. I don't know if I see that for Khalil Ware. I think Khalil Ware has shown more motor than him.
Yeah, the athletic ability is yes.
But I do think Khalil Ware, he's either gonna be the modern day Heat's Hassan Whiteside, or he's gonna turn into something special for them. But I think Khalil Ware has all the talent to be a special player. He just has to put it all together. And Eric Spoelstra has talked about that. He's talked about how it's improved as well. His professionalism has improved, but if he takes it seriously, I think he can be really special.
I agree. He just needs to take it seriously. Easy ones here. Spurs, Victor Wembanyama. Raptors, I put Scotty Barnes. I think you probably feel the same way there. Suns, just with the roster right now, I still put Booker here. Milwaukee Bucks is interesting. It's a bet on if Giannis is going to be there in 3 years or not. I just put Miles Turner.
I put Giannis, even if he's not going to be there. I think whoever trades for Giannis, the player that they're sending is going to be the best player on the Bucks. So that's why it was just kind of weird to pick out a player for them. I'm going with Giannis though.
Got you. We got 5 to 6 left here. Pelicans is very interesting. I put Trey Murphy.
I still think it's Zion.
You think he stays?
If he does, he's better than Trey Murphy, even 3 years from now. So yeah, I do.
Because a couple of weeks ago on this podcast, you talked about Trey Murphy being the missing piece for the San Antonio Spurs, and he's going to be a future All-Star, possibly an All-NBA guy, but you are betting on...
Not All-NBA, but an All-Star. Trey Murphy is the missing piece for some teams. He is.
Yeah, I agree. That's why he's going to be the best player in the Pelicans. The Pelicans aren't going to let go of him. We shall see. You're New York Knicks, bro. What do you think about there?
Oh, it's easily Jalen Brunson.
No cat love at all?
I mean, it's Jalen Brunson's team. He's the captain. It's Jalen Brunson.
I hope Pablo Torre does some digging on them. Oh, that situation's fishy to me.
Oh, no, I think it looks fine. He's just a team first guy.
Thunder's easy. We got Shea, Magic, Paulo Caro. 76ers. I mentioned the Cam Thomas, 1 year, $6 million. A guy you compared Cam Thomas to. So I put for the 76ers, Tyrese Maxey. He's on a 9-figure deal. In fact, $200 million plus deal. So comparable to a 1 year, $6 million deal to a $200 million player. Yeah, Maxey's going to be the best player on the 76ers. I swear to God, Joel, I was at the gym and my gym partner looked at me. He's like, "Did you see what Cam Thomas just got?" And I said, "Oh, I can't wait to hear it." And then he said the number. I was like, I'm going to have a conversation with one of my friends about that today.
You know, Cam Thomas just got paid at the wrong time. That's what it was. Had this been 2 years ago, he's making bank.
Really, on paper, it looks like the perfect time. The Nets are the only ones with cap space, and they can empty it on Cam Thomas. But instead, MPJ, we're going to get it on him.
Yeah, no, I think Cam Thomas was like, you know what, I'm going to bet on myself, and I'm going to take this qualifying offer. So next year I enter unrestricted free agency. I put VJ Edgecombe for the Sixers. That's who I put. I think VJ Edgecombe is going to be a special player.
Do you think he's going to start over Paul George this year?
No, he probably comes off the bench this year because they have Maxey and McCain. But he could start. If they start Maxey at the 1 and Edgecombe at the 2 and Paul George at the 3, there's a world. But I think VJ Edgecombe, his two-way ability is what sets him apart from someone like Maxey. VJ Edgecombe is going to be a great high-level defender, and his offensive upside, the way that he can drive to the basket, if he improves that jump shot, he's a lot like Anthony Edwards. He has a lot of the same skill sets. He has a lot of the same skill sets as Ant-Man.
I really don't understand your secret hatred for Tyrese Maxey or what you have against him. But Tyrese, again, you're taking a bet for a guy who's on VJ Edgecombe, who I will not argue has a higher ceiling than Tyrese Maxey, but has never played an NBA basketball game, over Tyrese Maxey, who has had 42 points in the playoffs and has played multiple roles in with multiple different all-stars. I think Tyrese Maxey's the easy answer here.
I mean, you mentioned it. Edgecombe has the highest ceiling. And 3 years from now, I'm kind of banking in that ceiling. And 3 years from now, I think that Edgecombe will be viewed as a more valuable part of the Sixers organization than Tyrese.
We're not talking about the more valuable part of the organization. We're talking about the better player.
If you're
and
more
the better
valuable,
player
you're
is going to
better.
be Tyrese Maxey at 27 years old compared to VJ Edgecombe in his third year in the NBA.
I mean, it depends. If his third year in the NBA, he's developing at a rapid rate, then yeah. I mean, Anthony Edwards, his third year in the NBA, was one of the best players in the NBA. So If Edgecombe has a trajectory that is even somewhat comparable, and he offers that two-way ability, is it out of the realm of possibility Edgecombe could average 20 in his third year? It is not. Is it out of the realm of possibility that while averaging 20, he's a great defender? No, it is not. And if that is the reality that we're living in, then yes, I think he's better than Maxey.
I'm so glad you brought up the points per game totals because I was on Tyrese Maxey's basketball reference yesterday and the day before that and the day before that because I just like looking at it and looking at great players' basketball reference. But you mentioned VJ Edgecombe coming off the bench this year. Tyrese Maxey, he did that in his rookie year. He averaged 8 points his rookie year. He averaged close to 27 points last year. It's a 20-point jump between points per game. And he started averaging in the 20s in his third year. So do you think VJ Edgecombe off the bench this year, ideally he could average a similar 8 to 10 points per game, is going to take a 20-point jump by his third year in the NBA and be better than a prime Tyrese Maxey?
Wow, prime. That really got me. Listen, he's gonna average more than 8 points as a rookie. Edgecombe is.
All right. I think it'll depend on his role and the health of everyone else, but we shall see. I think the Trailblazers and the Kings is all we have left, unless you think we missed anybody. But I think those are the two.
We missed the Wizards.
Yes, the Wizards.
I just
Wizards
put Trey
and Jazz.
Johnson.
Yeah, I didn't scroll down.
For the Blazers, I put Denny Advia.
Put Donovan Clingan.
And for the Jazz, I put Laurie Marketing still.
Jazz, I just put Ace Bailey. Seemed fun. Wizards, I put Sar. And, Blazers, I put Donovan Clingan. I understand why you go Denny Advia there. Kings, I put Keegan Murray because I think he's the only one that's going to be there.
I hope not. That'd be bad news for their franchise. I'm going with Sabonis still. I think the Sabonis is in a weird place where he might be disgruntled, but there's no other team that wants Sabonis. So
Yes.
He's probably going to stay there because of that.
Heck yeah. Joel, really appreciate you taking the time today. It was fun diving into the Clippers stuff, the division previews. We're going to keep the division previews going all the way until the first week of the NBA season. 6 divisions in the NBA. That was one of 6. And over the next 6 weeks, we'll unveil every NBA team and a preview for each of them. Joel, super fun today. Appreciate you being flexible before I fly out today. And I'm looking forward to talking to you next week, bro.
Thank you for having me on.